Welcome to Heartbreak and Hope. We are doing a little bit of an experiment this morning. As we head into the summer, we have a variety of scheduling challenges, both weeks when we're off, weeks when we're away, weeks when one of us is here and the other one isn't. So we're going to experiment a little bit with some episodes that are less about things immediate and timely, and more about topics that are on our hearts and minds. And so this episode will come out to you this summer on one of those weeks. You going to open us up, Sabrina?
Yes. So today, picking up on last week's theme, we're going to talk about public theology. And I wanted to read an excerpt from the first chapter of Love at the Center. This is something that the Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd wrote, and it's about theology. And so she says, I want to make a case that maybe we shouldn't spend so much time asking what it is we personally do and do not believe in the deep inner recesses of our own hearts. Maybe that highly individualistic and utterly non-relational question, what do you believe, isn't the point of theology in the first place. After all, theology is conversation. Theology is not an inner monologue for the purposes of one's own clarification and edification. It isn't talking to oneself about oneself for oneself. At the very least, theology is a dialogue. And so the question that I think is most pertinent to our history and our time, it is not so much what do I believe, as it is with whom am I in holy and accountable conversation. That should get us started, right?
We're going to light our chalice for all the holy and accountable conversations that happen in our lives. And come on, little candle. Go, 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 go. Uh-oh, there it goes.
Yes.
So let's begin with where that piece came from. So Nancy MacDonald Ladd was writing in the context of our larger denominational process a few years ago around the Article 2 revision. And so Nancy's saying, who are we in conversation with? What are we in conversation with? And I would even say, why are we in conversation?
Yeah.
And that's the theology piece. Where would you add the public theology piece to that?
So I have a bunch of rather academic definitions of public theology, having taken a class in it, but public theology is theology about and for the public. That's the simplest way that I can describe it. There is a lot of things that it can be. And there is some overlap with something called civil religion, so that what it is that you do in the public square. So activism would be writ large, right? With a civil component. But public theology is what the prophets in the Hebrew scripture do, is basically speaking, truth to power in the greatest. To me, that's, and there's many ways you can do that.
So this conversation is really pertinent to me. I am about to start in just a month, quite literally a month, a 3-year Doctor of Ministry program. And my focus will be creative writing and public theology. And so I'll be taking classes in public theology and classes in writing. And I'm really relating to this idea of theology for the public. And so there's a piece of that that is about being in dialogue with the public.
Yeah.
And so that's that's the who you're in conversation with. And I think the why is because we're going through tremendous change on a global level. And we need resources in our lives that ground us in both our humanity and our connections to each other and to all other life.
Right. And these connections are part of our spiritual nature, if I may add that. And as you were talking about, because your doctorate will be in public theology and creative writing, it brings up this question that people get asked: is theology necessary to achieve the common good? And I would add, is art necessary to achieve the common good? Because the two things have a lot of overlap. Because art is in conversation with the public. Art is in dialogue, if there's two people, but like larger conversation with the public and for the common good. The creative part of creative writing is imagining how that can be. Like how does that happen? In my opinion, and I don't know what you want to get out of your PhD, but what I'm hoping you get out is a way to imagine something for the common good.
Absolutely, yes. A product for the common good. And I would also say that art is also in conversation with the holy.
Yes.
Because there's something in the process of creation that puts us both in touch with ourselves and with something greater than ourselves or beyond ourselves, or that ephemeral spirit of inspiration,
Yeah, I like process theology because it says that we can create the holy, right? Mm-hmm. And so the holy is growing up with us, is being created, and it creates. I know it's a lot to digest, but the process part is that it's not a destination, it's a process. And so there isn't a destination of God being, finished, completed.
Right. Always in the mode of creation. And I think the important piece of that is, again, that dialogue piece, because process theology requires the participation of humanity.
Yes.
Right. That the holy cannot create all on its own, but requires our participation.
Right.
Our collaboration. That's why it's called co-creation.
Yes. Yes. And how you get there is through art. And through art and heart.
There is no heart without art.
Yes, that's right. And so what theology can be is a conversation between like-hearted people or people that want to become like.
So if we're talking about theology for the public, there's lots of different theological perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I can't help but think about what we weren't going to really do news, but just last weekend, so now you'll know when we were recording this, the National Day of Prayer on the National Mall, which brought together really a bunch of white Christian nationalists that presented only one vision of religion, of faith, of theology that is highly exclusive and, frankly, I think damaging.
Yeah. And it gives theology a bad name. And that's what, pointed us to start this conversation that we're having today. It's that all the terminology has been co-opted by the white Christian nationalists, the white, Christian Zionist nationalists, because that's about power. And it's not even evangelical, because there are evangelicals that do good works, that talk about Jesus. Nowhere in that prayer thing was anything mentioned about Jesus or anything. It's just like the most violent of verses from the Hebrew scripture. It was quite the display of, power. And so I was thinking about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a public theologian, and was in a congregational denomination in Germany, but spoke up because his denomination was going with the Nazis, and he's like, no, we shouldn't do that. And it didn't end well for him, but we still say his name. Like, we still know what he did.